Today on Top Gear Rearview, Jeff buys a lot of cars.
I'd buy a car on a whim at $900 sometimes. I have bought a car on a whim at about that price range.
And I forget that Jason Dawes is not dead yet. Rest in peace, Jason Dawes.
Hello and welcome to Top Gear Rearview. I'm Jeff, that's Brady over there. Tonight we're taking a look at the last episode in Series 1. This is Series 1, Episode 10 of the new Top Gear.
This episode aired on the 29th of December in 2002. There was no star any reasonably priced car, but this is the last episode with used car maven Jason Daw.
So tonight's segments, we're looking at some off-roaders featuring the new Range Rover. We have the first ever new Top Gear awards, some oddball German cars, take some hot laps around the track. We take a look at the long-lived Lotus Esprit, the TVR T350C, and finally part 2 of our fastest faith with 4 more gentlemen taking a WRX around the track. All right, so that off-road segment, the first thing that kind of caught me off guard here was, what the hell kind of off-roading do they do over there?
Well, it's mostly wet and slightly hilly, so
apparently
it's kind of just getting around the countryside is trying to muck it through the mud and the slippery grass, I guess, to go shoot stuff, I suppose.
I guess.
That part's pretty similar to America.
It is. Shoot stuff is part of off-roading. But, we have trails, and we typically have a lot of rocks, and there were no rocks, and it was just, muck. And a lot of times it was there wasn't even a trail. You're just, ruining somebody's grass.
The few episodes ago, we talked about just driving through the damn grass. They apparently really like driving through the damn grass.
I mean, it seemed like a lot of them, they were, going one at a time, just, turn into the skid and just floor it through mud.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was the camera work or what, but they looked like they're having a really, really hard time with just, flat mud. There must have been, a sizable hill.
There must have been. Because, they were just not doing well.
It looked very wet and muddy. So that's I guess, English off-roading.
Yeah,
Yeah, the thing that struck me was Jeremy said that his off-roader was the Toyota Land Cruiser Amazon. And he specifically called out it was built for Africa and Australia. So different type of off-roading, I suppose, than England.
And the Amazon's in neither of those places. Yep. Yeah, that was funny. I was like, okay, I've never heard it called that, but I recognize that's obviously a 100 series. And Google proved me right. That apparently was called the Amazon in the UK.
Well, I guess because we talked, was it last episode, about the Land Cruiser Prado. So this is the Land Cruiser Amazon. So I guess they had 2 full lines, whereas here in America, we had the Land Cruiser and then what is the 4Runner line. Just a different name for 2 lines. But they called them both Land Cruiser. I guess Land Cruiser had the name recognition in the UK.
Yeah, it's more of a mark than it's like Genesis here, which is now its own mark. But exactly. So they do have a couple other cars in there, which were kind of in the same ilk of those 2. The BMW X5, which they've already kind of ragged on a bit.
They continued to rag on it.
Yeah. It's really, I got no qualms with it, but it's not an off-roader. I mean, especially with the tires and wheels it comes with.
I mean, they're really driving that point home. I don't know if there was anyone out here who was like, man, I really would have bought that X5 if it could go on the trails and on the mud.
Yeah, if that can rock crawl.
No, that's not why anyone ever bought that ever.
No, that's just a bigger BMW to haul family members. But the other one was the Jeep Grand Cherokee, which not a bad car. I thought it was interesting, especially because they had the Isuzu Trooper and they had an old Land Rover. I think it was a Series 2 Land Rover. I don't know why they didn't have a Wrangler.
That was sold over there, wasn't it?
Yeah, because they had mentioned it earlier. One of the people during a Cool Wall segment, one of the people in the audience owned one. So it definitely was available. And if we're talking Jeeps and off-roading, come on, Wrangler is the one.
I mean, I guess that's not really the class they were going for here. They were going for, They were comparing things to, I mean, the Trooper doesn't really fit. At least, maybe it's different over there than it is here. But the Wrangler is not in the same class as a Range Rover or a 100 series Land Cruiser.
Totally agree there.
So and this would have been the Wrangler is in the same class as a Suzuki, not Hayabusa, Samurai.
I don't know about that. I'd say between them, it would have been the TJ generation, not the JK. So they couldn't have gotten a 4-door. It would have only been a 2-door. And I don't know if they got the Unlimited over there, which is the longer wheelbase version. So
I'm sure
there's a little bit. there's a little bit of difference there, but I mean, in terms of an off-roader, like that one is, and in terms of going out to the country and shooting stuff, come on, that's like, I've owned a Wrangler, and I've done that in said Wrangler.
Yeah, I don't think that was the car that they were trying to compare together here.
Yeah,
I think the Grand Cherokee most definitely fits in with those a little bit more. I mean, the Grand Cherokee is the height of the Cherokee of the Jeep offerings.
Yeah,
and so is the Land Cruiser, and so is the Range Rover. So that's what they're looking at. That being said, the only real bad thing they had to say about the Cherokee is they didn't really like the interior. Okay, and he even put a disclaimer on that. He says,
but good though it may be out here, it does have one or two problems. It's quite agricultural feeling. I don't really mind that. I mean, it is an off-road car. What I do mind is the ruching on the leather seats and this hideous fake plastic wood. It's also nowhere near as big on the inside as you would imagine looking at it from the outside.
But he said the worst thing about it is that it's second best. You always know that you have second best. And they, in the future episodes and all throughout Top Gear, they say, that is a bad thing. You always feel like you bought second best. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's an adequate criticism. I don't think calling something second best is an adequate criticism. The criticism needs to be why it's second best. Yeah. And they don't really give me that. I guess they say later on that the that the Grand Cherokee gets stuck just along with the Range Rover and everything else that they have. Besides the old-timey Range Rover, what you call it, the Mark II.
Yeah, I think it was the Series 2, yeah.
But, it's 20,000 pounds cheaper. Yeah. Which is a hell of a lot of money.
You could basically buy two Grand Cherokees.
It's a hell of a lot of money for it just to be second best. And I think probably, out of all of those, obviously, I would try to get the Land Cruiser. But I think this is probably the most cost-effective version of that sort of premium, quote-unquote, premium off-roader.
Agreed. And thinking back to the Wrangler comment, honestly, if they were going to bring in the Wrangler, they should have brought in the Defender Land Rover, because that would have been the adequate comparison there.
Mm-hmm. And it's just not the same vehicle.
Nah, different market.
It's like comparing the F350 and the Sierra 3500 and then bringing in a Ranger.
Yeah, it's different ilk. Now, one thing that I did note that Jeremy said was,
it's the best interior on any car anywhere ever, easily. It's like being in the middle of a field in a trendy restaurant in Notting Hill.
He was all about that interior.
Man, yeah, I was like, okay, it's a nice interior, but I cannot agree with you that it's the best ever. That's a very strong statement.
Mm-hmm. Well, he obviously feels that way.
Fair enough, yeah. Now, there was one more comment that they said when they were talking about the X5 and the... I believe it was the motor. Maybe it wasn't the motor. It was something that they had kind of borrowed from Rover. It was the hill descent. And they were like, yeah, well, that happened when BMW was running Rover. And I said, what? I didn't realize BMW owned or was in charge owned Range Rover for a while.
But they did. Yeah.
They did from 94 to 2000, and then apparently they actually split the brands because it was Rover and Land Rover. As they used to all be one. So there was the Rover group, and then there was Land Rover. They sold Land Rover to Ford in 2000, and then they sold the Rover basically copyright to them in 2006. So they kind of reunited them again. But yeah, for 6 years in the mid to late 90s, it was BMW Mark.
Well, there you go. I always thought them as independent than owned by Ford.
Yeah. There was an intermediate step there.
Well, the more you know.
Yeah. And then I did like the talk of the long range, the long test mule, basically, that they were going to hold on to it for like 6 months, and if anything broke, they got to go kill the dog.
Well, they had commented that Range Rovers are notorious for being unreliable, especially the older ones in the 80s and 90s. And they went through a list. Richard went through a list of issues that have cropped up on the new Range Rover. And the list was...
They did suffer a few problems. It was with stuff like the paintwork, interior trim, a bit rattly, engines, they could be a problem.
Yeah, the 4-litre.
And the 4.6.
And the diesel.
All the engines. Yeah. Gearboxes could be an issue.
Automatics.
And the manuals.
Yeah.
Transfer boxes, the suspension actually as well, and all of the electronics.
Yeah.
All of it,
Yeah.
It's a real criticism of Land Rover and Range Rover, but I guess I don't know if we ever hear back from it. I'm not sure we do.
We didn't. I don't recall it from early season or series 2, but we'll see if we do. We'll revisit. So anyway, I'm a fan of the Range Rover. That was always the car from the OC to me because I watched that show for a bit, and that was the car they drove. So it's it seems like an Orange County kind of SUV where it's like I can I'm an off-roader, but not really.
It's I kind of cringe a little bit seeing them throw these such expensive cars through that. It's like, just go buy. I mean, obviously the older and crappier one did the best. Just go buy like a Wrangler or something that's more capable that you don't care about. It hurts me a little bit to see them throwing $100,000 SUVs through this sort of thing. It's like, that's not really what they're built for.
Smacking them into saplings.
Potentially going to the lake and stuff like that. I know that they can, but by any scope of the imagination, the Range Rover is not the best off-roading car ever. It's just not.
No.
And I don't think you should call it that just because it's nice. It's a luxury off-roader. It's probably the best luxury off-roader. Again, I would probably take the Land Cruiser, but that's because I'm a Land Cruiser guy. But, it's probably the best. All right, sure. But make sure you call it a luxury off-roader, a posh off-roader.
Yes.
And it makes that comparison to the X5 a little more apt, I think, when
I agree.
They bring it in. It's like, this is your competition. It's not that hard to be better than them.
Well, I think it would have been interesting, and I don't know if they got this over there, to do, instead of the Land Cruiser, do the LX 470. That is the upmarket version of the Land Cruiser, and in terms of spec and whatnot, that would match, but nah. Whatever.
It probably would have been too good. Can't be better than a British car on Top Gear.
No. We are BBC funded. Due to the unique way this show is funded. We say no Lexuses.
That's exactly right. Well, they threw a new segment at us today, Jeff.
Indeed, they did.
Which sticks around for a while. I think it happens most years.
I think it is. Yeah, I can't remember if it's an annual thing or if it's a little sporadic, but it does. It definitely revisits in the future.
This was the shortest version of the Top Gear Awards I've ever seen, but this is the Top Gear Awards, and they gave out, I guess, 4.
I got 5, including Fastest Celebrity, which is kind of an award.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I guess that one's just telling you who's at the top. And we'll call that an award. All right, so 5 awards for the Top Gear Annual Review, I guess we'll call it. But I guess we're just going to hit on it real quick. They made some jokes like they usually do, but they had the main one was the Car of the Year, which is they usually waited to last to give you, but they gave it to you right away. Mm-hmm. Now, I tried to guess which one of these on the list they were going to choose before they chose. So I've got little lines next to the ones that I wrote down in my notes. So the 2002 Car of the Year, they have the Range Rover for its sheer Range Roveriness. They have the Mazda 6, which they were really high on, I think, in episode 1.
It was early, yeah.
The Mini Cooper S, which they're obviously going to put on the list.
Yep.
And then the Audi RS6, which Jeremy really liked and kind of peaked at the top of their favorite luxury saloon.
Yeah.
So I thought they were going to choose the Range Rover. And then I would have chosen the Range Rover on that list. What about you?
I would have gone RS6.
You would have gone RS6? I thought you might have gone RS6.
Yeah.
What did you think they were going to do?
I was between it, but I was leaning Range Rover too.
It was between the Range Rover and the Mini because I figured they're going to go with one of those two.
British, yeah.
I'm kind of surprised they didn't go with the Mini, but oh well.
Yeah.
But yeah, they chose the Range Rover. They liked the little heater to warm up the car before you get in it. They liked the interior styling and the sheer Range Roveriness of it, as I've already said. So those are all
very Range Rover-y points.
Yes, they are. All right, you take the next one.
All right. So first I did want to say the one thing that I liked about this segment is their crowd interaction, especially Jeremy's. I was like, all right, you're starting to get the hang of this. I like this better.
Yeah.
And I did like that. They were talking about the next one was the most pointless car, and I believe it was this segment where somebody said the Mercedes SL55 AMG, and it was
took off after him. Yeah.
Oh yeah, he chased him. I was like, yeah, that's I agree.
Yeah, someone said that the Maybach 62 should be in the Car of the Year, and Clarkson said it's a stupid car, and you'll see why in a little bit.
Yeah. I didn't write down all the ones for this year. I believe the 62 was in the most pointless.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and then the Ford Fusion.
Yep.
Which we have a Ford Fusion here.
And it is wildly different.
It is not that car.
I guess not wild. They made it. Yeah, that was a little like hatchback version of the Fiesta.
It looked like a Fiesta MPV. They called it.
Wearing a hat. Ours is a mid-sized sedan below the Taurus. So, yeah, that was interesting. I was like, what is all this now? What else did they have on that list?
It was the Rover 75 long wheelbase, which is like Kia from 20 years ago making.
Yeah, that weird little like fake luxury L one. Yeah, I remember that one.
That's what that was. So it was like super long and pretty unpractical, trying to be like this luxury car, but it was just a Rover, so it kind of sucks.
Okay. Was anything else? Or that it?
There was just the three.
The three. Okay.
It was just the three, and they chose from the list of three. Usually, when there's three, they choose from something.
They'll choose something totally different. Yeah. So this one, they did go with the Ford Fusion, which, they said basically their complaint was, Ford knows that the UK loves nice little MPVs, and they just phoned it in and didn't really give them one.
So Ford went and did nothing.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, next one.
The next one is a joke category. It is the weirdest Renault. So they had a whole category called "Which is the weirdest Renault?" And we've talked about these previously, but it's Velsatis. And their joke was, if you want to be an executive, but you're an executive of Enron, which timely joke. And then the Renault Megane, which is a family. A family people carrier. Family people carrier. If your family is the Osbornes.
Yeah, and interestingly, that one actually won whatever official title they had. I'm guessing it was some
European Car of the Year or something like that.
Yeah. So that one actually did hit some that got some real press.
And then the Renault Aventine, which they said is if you want a sporty saloon car.
No, a sporty coupe.
A sporty coupe.
That's neither sporty nor a coupe.
That's right. I couldn't remember, so I was just going to leave a gap so I could answer what they said there. But
that's fine, too. Throw it in.
So all of those, we talked about their unique styling earlier in the series. You can go check that one out. They're all very unique. And I thought they were going to choose the Megane because it's the least favorite of mine. But they went for a side curveball and said the Nissan Micra is the worst looking Renault.
Somebody forgot to stop designing.
Yep. And you know what? The Nissan Micra is an ugly little bugger.
It does have some weird little frog eyes on it.
It's not too good. And it's got the weird back end, just like all the Renaults, which is why I think they put it in that category.
I'd give them that, yeah. Next one is the Surely You Don't Need the Money category, which is a celebrity endorsement. And I don't believe they had nominees here. They just went straight to it, right? And it was Eddie Irvine, who is a Formula One driver. Coincidentally did retire in 2002, so surely he may have needed the money. But on a pressure washer.
Yes. He put his Fizzog on a pressure washer.
I just don't even know what to do with it.
I didn't even look it up. I'm just going to say it.
Yeah.
And then finally, the fastest celebrity in a reasonably priced car. It wasn't very close.
No.
The only person to beat Clarkson was obviously JK. I think Ramsey was tied with him, I believe.
It was 130 or 131. He was right there. It was a good run.
150.
Sorry, 150 or 151.
God, but JK was
smoking.
JK was that'd be so fast. Oh my god. JK was at a 148, so he just JK can drive. That guy can drive.
He can wheel for sure.
So thus concludes the first annual Top Gear Awards.
Now this next segment was an oddball because it was basically saying well, Germany said they can beat us or something. They said they have cars that can go faster around our track than our cars.
I guess this was kind of them going through the fastest car that wasn't a reasonably priced car. So they did the JK was the fastest driver. Now let's do the award for the fastest car on our list. But they kind of segued into this weird competition with Germany. The Germans said that they have some cars that could blitzkrieg our board.
Yeah, because they did have the one on the list as of now is the fastest would be the Radical SR3 at the 119. Mm-hmm. So yeah, they said the Germans had a few to send over. Now the first thing I loved about both these is they both shot fire, which is just paramount in a quality car in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want any of my cars to shoot fire right now. That'd be bad news for me.
Bad news bears. Wood chop on the ground. The first of these was, they never gave a mark that I heard, but it was the AS1. And I Googled and tried my best, and I came up empty-handed. I have no idea what this car is.
It's another kit-style car like the Radical.
Yep.
Surprisingly, and I don't know if they were sandbagging here or what, but surprisingly,
they might have been.
It's got a more powerful engine, and it looks very similar in terms of aerodynamics.
Yeah, 1.4 liters and 600 kilograms, so it's really right in line with the Radical.
Yeah, because the Radical was like 1.2 and like 500 kilograms?
It would be a 1.3, the one straight out of the...
So
whatever
one more liter,
500 kilograms,
and 100 more kilograms.
Oh, not one more liter, one more tenth of a liter.
one tenth of a liter. Yes.
100 more milliliters and 100 more kilograms.
So 1 deciliter and 100 kilograms.
Yeah.
And this did a 129, which is 10 seconds slower.
On a dry track, that is an eternity.
I find that extremely hard to believe.
I would agree with you.
There's no way that essentially the same car, I mean, 100 kilograms, I guess it's 1/5.
Yeah, it's a 20% weight increase and probably a little bit of a power bump because I couldn't find, like I said, any information. I got to assume it has a little more horsepower.
Yeah, I don't think there's any way that it actually did a 129, but that's what they said.
Yep.
And then that one was fine. It's a kit car that probably went faster. But we got to talk about this other one.
It was a pretty cool car.
So they brought in a TT, an Audi TT, that looks like a racing spec TT, whatever series it's in. It's got, a little bit of a ground kit on it. It's got a spoiler, all that stuff. And it's got a 450 horsepower engine. So it's
400, I think.
Okay, 400 is 1.8 liter turbo. And then they go around to the back. I guess what he says is that usually drives all four wheels in a stock car, but in this one it's only front wheel drive. And then he goes around to the back and he pops open the trunk, and there's a whole other 400 horsepower 1.8 liter turbo engine back there.
Yeah.
And that drives the rear wheels. And so
which is pretty rad.
This is super rad.
Yeah.
It's super rad. So it's got two engines, 800 horsepower, each driving its own set of wheels.
I got to imagine the control system on the thing is such a pain in the ass. Audi plus bonus engine. Oh my God.
It's got to be such an ass to drive. Just like the worst traction control ever.
Oh, but it looked fun. I mean, he looked like he was enjoying himself.
I guess as long as you went straight, but I could definitely understand that. As soon as you start going in the corners, you got the computer just messing with you the whole way.
Yeah.
I have to assume. And I bet it's probably just way too easy just to whip the back end around because you have 400 horsepower. You have 200 horsepower wheel, Just
That's a good way to think of it.
just spin it out no matter what you're doing. But that is a cool engine. And it's interesting to think about how the power is shared there. I guess it's one central ECU, or is there two ECUs?
I don't know. I'm really curious. I would say they'd have to have their own ECU that are somehow, I don't know. See, the biggest thing is like you could separately drive the engines, but getting everything to sync to drive the wheels right is the hard part.
Well, I mean, yeah, because what happens if you get more power out of the rear engine than the front engine?
Yeah.
Right? Or more grip. The more apt example is more grip out of the rear than the front. Say your front tires are spinning, your rear tires aren't.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you want to cut the fuel, or you don't want to cut the fuel, but only to one engine, but not to another engine. And I'm sure there's probably some central processor, or
there's got to be something
fully custom, dual linked ECUs to control the fuel flow and the injectors and everything on it. There's got to be something.
My question would be too is like, is there an actual physical link between the front and rear drivetrains? Like, is there a drive shaft running between them to try to keep them synced, or are they totally independent?
I would think the easier thing to do would be to make them independent.
I agree, but
because you don't want one to not have enough power and then be sucking load from the other one.
Yeah. So
because not only are you down power on one, then you're down power on your other one.
Mm-hmm.
Also.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's I wish they had more on it, because as the engineer in me is just like, this is a cool looking car, and I didn't look too deep into this one. I'm sure there is more information out there, but the surprise here was it was faster than the little tiny rocket ship by a second.
It did a 128. So again, I think I would believe the 128 because it looked like a heavy car that probably didn't corner too well.
Yeah.
The 129 out of the AS1, I don't think so.
I'm going to guess, I don't have a horsepower number on the... Oh, I do. I do have the SR3. The SR3 is about 250 horsepower, so I'd put that right in the same range, maybe with that little bump, maybe like 275 or so. So it's probably in the neighborhood of a third of the power, but also like a third of the weight. So I just, I don't know. I got to imagine, it doesn't make sense that it would beat it. So, I'm going to say a little sandbagging.
Yep. And then one comment I'd like to make about the power lap board in general, Jeff, is you can always tell, like, they don't keep it secret where the new lap times
they
are.
Gap it?
They've got like 12 names up there, and then they've got like super tight and then like a one nameplate gap, and then the super tight and then another one nameplate gap. It's like, well, I wonder where they're going to go. It's like, is this going to be the fastest one ever? No, it's going to be like 7 and 9.
Yeah.
I know exactly where it's going to go. That's where the gaps are. So I just thought that was funny, and that definitely doesn't go away. Like
nope.
They definitely keep the and you can see it on the starting a reasonably priced car as well. Is, you know, if someone comes up there and they look at the board, where do you think you are on the board? If all the top names are all bunched together, you ain't nowhere near the top, buddy. Sorry.
Yep. Sorry, man. So with the decline and fall of Mr. Daw, I think we should visit one more time the used car corner. So
this will be the last time, so we'll give it its proper due, I think.
We will. This one was a little bit of an interesting one. They were talking about, you know, how you get seven-year-old cars or so. Mostly, I think the point was the new cars are so affordable and flying off the shelf, I guess, right now at such a rate that used cars are just plummeting in value. So you can get a 7-year-old car with reasonable miles for nothing. I think he said what, like 1,500 quid?
Yeah, or less. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was. I mean, they went through some. None of them were particularly like flashy or eye catching. But then, they were talking to the one guy at the end, and I totally am a kindred spirit with this guy, where he was like, "I bought this car for 100 pounds, and I will drive it until it dies, and then just buy another 100-pound car."
Exactly. Yeah. And I think even Jason Daw said something about he bought a Volvo for 450 pounds.
Yeah.
And when it, he just got the new MOT, which is their tax sticker. It paid its tax, so you're good for another year or two. I don't know how long it is. I think maybe 2 years. That's what you have to get to. You have to get your inspection, then you get your MOT.
Okay.
And then, so a car that has that has more value than a car that doesn't, because the person who buys it doesn't have to go get it. It just sticks with the car. It's like this bought and paid for sort of thing. So 450 pounds just got MOT. He's got a couple years left in it before either it explodes, he says, or he has to get an MOT in again. Then he'll make a decision at that point. And it's kind of viewing, interestingly enough, on a show that puts cars up on a pedestal so far, kind of viewing cars as certainly as disposable items.
Yeah, appliances.
Mm-hmm.
And he did. He mentioned that. Well, let's see. I guess 450 pounds. That'd be $900. I mean, that's kind of. I'd buy a car on a whim at $900. Sometimes I have bought a car on a whim at about that price range. But yeah, he said that a lot of them had time bombs, being, if you have a major mechanical failure, if you need a transmission, you need anything like that, like, you're done. That's more than the car's worth. So goodbye, and just push it off the side of the road and light it on fire or something. File off the VIN and call it a day.
I mean, these days, it depends on what it is, but there's certainly a lot of stuff. A car doesn't have to be too old for you to get in an accident, pop all the airbags, even not a bad accident, but enough to pop all the airbags, and it just totals it from just popping the airbags.
Yeah.
It's like, how much is this car? $10,000? Well, replacing all the airbags will be more than that.
Yeah. What? I don't know if that's exactly what it is, but it's like between diminished value and all that stuff, it's just like, nope, we're just going to total it. I think it's something like 75% of the car value in repairs and whatnot, and they write it off. So yeah. But I can totally get behind that, and I understand his point. So with that,
the one thing I had to say about used car.
Oh yeah, got one more.
Is he was commenting. He likes to throw in having a sunroof on a car as a feature that is really nice to get, even though it's super cheap. It's like, you even get a sunroof. And the one that he showed more in depth was a manual sunroof. And I thought that was awesome. I've never seen a manual sunroof before.
We didn't get a lot over here. I know that they exist, obviously, but I have not actually seen one, in a car, but personally.
If you take a look at the video footage, he's cranking it like a window crank, dude. It's just like, and it's right up there, but you can see his arm going around and around. It pops open. He goes, "Do you even get a sunroof?" And it closes it back down. He's like,
"Oh, that's awesome! I wish we got more of those."
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
All right, so with that, Mr. Daw, we appreciate your tenure. We bid you adieu and wish you good luck in your journeys.
Good day, Mr. Daw. Good day.
Now on to the Lotus Esprit.
Yes.
I did not realize how long this car has been around.
No, I thought this was a response to the Countach.
Okay, which I figured late 80s, which would be in that same Countach time frame.
Exactly. That's what I thought it was. And I guess this is throwing my whole world into a vortex. Maybe the Countach was styled after the Lotus Esprit.
Oh,
they look,
no.
Oh, no. Lamborghini, say it isn't so. But yeah, it's an old car, like mid-70s.
Yeah, now 76 is the first year. The interesting thing is if either one of us were old Bond fans, 77 is when it was in the Spy Who Loved Me. So
yes.
Obviously it's, that kind of dates it exactly where it started. But I didn't even think about it. It was just like, yeah, it was in a Bond film, whatever. And apparently that Bond film was older than I thought it was.
Yeah, well, it had Roger Moore, so I guess it could have been over a vast range of years.
Yeah, it ran 76 to 04. It looks like they made a little over 10,000 of them.
They only made 10,000?
I know, they're super limited production.
30 years?
Yeah, the total production was 10,675.
Wow. That's not a lot of cars.
Yeah. Now, if I'm not mistaken, you have been in one of these.
My uncle, so yes, I have. My uncle, the same one who had the Z4 that I drove that we talked about in a previous episode, bought a secondhand Lotus Esprit. And if I'm remembering the story about this correctly, was a repaired version of a car that was a stunt car in some movie. Now, I never figured out which movie it was. It was a yellow, bright yellow Lotus Esprit. But I don't think it was entirely stock.
Okay.
I think there was some modifications done. There was some amount of damage done in the filming of the movie. They fixed it and then sold it off, which is what I assume they do with a lot of cars if it's not bad enough.
Yep.
And so this is a stunt car. That being said, and I think this is the reason why I have it, my experience with it is this way, is I literally did not fit in this car. My knees were pushed against the backside of the steering wheel so hard that I couldn't let my foot off the brake.
Man.
And so and my uncle was considerably shorter than I was, so it fit him just fine.
Yeah.
I quote unquote drove this like down the block before I'm like, this is dangerous. I can't drive this anymore.
Yeah, fair enough. It is interesting.
I'm gonna break my ankle trying to not stop all the time.
Yeah, Clarkson's not a small guy, and I mean he did fit.
Yeah, which makes me think why my experience was so different, because I think Clarkson's like 6'5".
Yeah,
I'm
he's
6'4".
in that range. Yeah. Now, what generator? What year? Do you remember? What? So
this must have been the late 90s.
Late 90s. Okay, so this would have been like the S4 version.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it. I guess it might have been a little earlier. He got it. Right around 2000.
Okay. The S3 ran from 81 to 93.
It might have been an S3.
Okay.
It did not have a lot of the same styling cues as the one that they showed on the episode.
Little box here?
A little box here, yeah.
Okay, I'm guessing it was an S3 then.
Yeah.
Maybe they had a smaller interior on that. It doesn't look like a shorter car.
It was... I mean, there might have been something where, like, the seat was modified to not go back so far to, like, fit a camera in it or something.
Okay.
And, like, I just simply
could not fit.
Unfold my legs. This is back when I was a lot more svelte than I am now. And I just was not. It was just a height thing. It wasn't
Fair enough.
Fair
enough. All right.
I really wish I would have been able to drive it, because apparently this car is fast as shit.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed reasonably fast. The interesting thing is...
175 is pretty fast.
It is. Now, so this is a 3.5 liter twin turbo V8. 3.5 liters is too small for a V8.
It's a very small V8. They didn't get very much horsepower out of a 3.5-liter twin-turbo V8.
Well, okay, so here's the interesting thing about that. This is the Type 918 V8, which is the Lotus nomenclature for it. It is a flat-plane crank with 2 decent-sized Garrett turbos on it. This thing puts out 500 horsepower. They detuned it to about 350 because they didn't want to blow the gearbox.
Oh, because they got a crappy Renault gearbox on it.
Yeah, because that was the weak link. So I think that it had a lot more in it if it had a better gearbox behind it. Now
this car was in production for like 30 years.
I
Just
know.
Get a better gearbox.
They were like, it'll cost $1 million. Yeah, it's gonna be around for a bit. I guess at this point it's gonna be around for 2 more years. But yeah, it's 0 to 60 time that I read was 4.4. They said 4.8.
Yeah, 4.8 seems slow.
It is, but I mean, if you really got 500 horsepower out of that thing, it didn't weigh much. So it's like, okay. They should have been able to do more, I think.
I mean, they didn't have to build their own gearbox. Just go buy a better one. Just source
you got to fit it, but like, come on, something's got to fit. Just build a nice fancy adapter plate. Anyway, yeah. So I agree. It seemed pretty fast, and like I like the styling of this. I always thought the Esprit was a good looking car.
You know what? I always thought it looked like a knockoff of a Countach, and now my whole world
is blown.
Twist, flip upside down.
Everybody was a fan of the pop-up headlights, which I agree. Having owned a couple Miatas, love the pop-up headlights.
Yeah, fan of pop-ups.
Yes, sir. Yeah, and yeah, like a C3, man, love it. Well, I guess C4, not a C3. No, C3 had them too. Okay, they both had them. Anyway, this was an overlap too.
So did the C5.
It did, didn't it? Look at that. Yeah, C6 is when they switched over to fixed. So I thought this was like the predecessor to the Elise. They actually existed side by side for 8 full years.
Wow.
Yeah.
They're very different cars.
They really are.
Yeah, very different cars.
But yeah, I mean, it's in terms of sports cars, one single like mark, I guess, like one single name and generation of that particular one. This has got to be one of the longest running ones. 28 years? Yeah, 28 years.
28, yeah.
Yeah, damn. So this was our hot lap car. One thing I noticed here, the gauges are back.
They are. They brought back all of the on-screen heads-up display.
Yeah. Which is we'll see how much longer it lasts. But it was good to see that it's not totally dead yet, because that is a cool feature.
It's cool for someone who's interrogating an episode of Top Gear for all its little nooks and crannies. He was also, we're kind of car guys. For the general viewing public, probably not.
Yeah, I understand.
Yep, this was our hot lap. It did a 1:32 in the dry, which is a good time, but not great. It's faster than the RS6. Faster than the R32 Golf.
Now, this was cold, was it not?
It was cold. So
what's our cold modifier?
Maybe we should talk about our modifiers here. I don't think we actually went through the deductions. So I found somewhere within the depths of the internet a deduction scheme for times on the Top Gear track. So previously they have talked about if it's wet, generally it's 4 seconds off.
Mm-hmm.
So you take your time, you subtract 4 seconds. So we have now 7 different track options and their deductions. So a dry lap is 0. Everything's compared back to dry lap. A damp lap is 1 second off. A hot and cold lap, so if it's super hot or super cold, they take 1 second off.
Okay.
If it's moist, not damp, or not wet, but moist.
What about mildly moist? Does that count?
I think that's moist.
Okay.
That's 3 seconds off. Wet is 4, as they've stated. And then there's very wet. So that's raining, like actually raining while you're driving.
That's Jonathan Ross.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we've had a couple very wets, yes. So that's 6 seconds off. So this would be a cold. So it's 1 second off. So it actually helps it out quite a bit. That's our first cold lap. So that gives it a modified lap time of 1:31 instead of 1:32.
Okay.
So, what, Jeff, is your desirability score?
This is a tough one. I'm going to give it an 8 because for some reason I really want one.
You're really going up there with the 8?
I really want one.
Well, I don't fit, so I'm giving it a 5.
Boo.
Yeah,
Boo too big.
It's 50,000 pounds.
I understand.
I think I'd rather have an Exige or an Elise. So.
I understand.
And actually, the Elise I scored. Actually scored worse. Maybe I need to get my story straight here.
Yeah, maybe you don't fit in an Elise either, though.
Okay.
We don't know. We got to try that.
I think we both said we'd rather have an Exige over an Elise, but Esprit is okay. I gave it a 5. It is a very cool-looking car, and apparently...
Dude, twin turbo V8.
It is...
Come
on. That's true. But apparently, it's like the leader of that sort of styling.
Yeah.
Well, all said and told, better than average, 103.5, probably boating towards its good lap. But that put it 8th place overall. So... just ahead of the SL55 AMG and just behind the Lotus Elise. Would you say this is better or worse than the Lotus Elise?
I'd probably take the Elise. It's a more reliable drivetrain. It's probably a little cheaper ownership and a little more, manic around corners in the fun way.
The Elise is half the price of the Esprit.
Whew. All right, I would believe that. Now, one more interesting thing I'm going to tease the next episode. In the first of Series 2, they actually do mention this in the news briefly. There's a Lotus marketing or something kind of scheme going around where they're basically trying to copyright the shape of this car. So in terms of this being one of the OG wedge car kind of things, they think so too.
I think it certainly is. I mean, 75's where? I mean, 75, the Miura was like
76.
76. So this was out before the Miura.
Well, wait. I don't know what the Miura is. 76 is when the Esprit.
Right. I thought the Miura was like in the 60s, but we'll see.
Let's take a quick look, see if I can find it. Because I was going to say 66 to 73.
All right.
But the Miura is not as much wedgy. I mean, it's a little rounder. It's got the weird bug eyes, and it's got a more pronounced cab. I would say.
Hang on. Whoa. We probably should research this before we talk about it, Jeff. The Countach came out in 74.
Oh, all right. Yeah, we don't know old cars apparently. I was thinking more Jalpa, but that's mid 80s.
Yeah, so the Countach was 74. Oh my God.
Okay, vindicated.
All right. Yes.
Okay.
It's just a copycat Countach. Give it a 5, Jeff.
No, it gets an 8, so I want it.
Right. It is a desirability score. If you want it, you want it.
Yeah.
All right, Jeff, let's take a quick spin through the news today.
The best part about the news was like all these new cars. I was like, oh my God, I love all these.
If I was watching the show and I was a fan of season 1, and I'm in the UK in 2002, and they sit down and they talk about all these new cars coming out next year, I would have been super amped. And the list of cars, like the cars that they're...
It's long.
It is, and there's some like...
there's some ringers in there.
There's some hyper car, bellwethers in here, like the Bugatti Veyron, which is the hypercar to beat all hypercars. The SLR McLaren, that is like one of the first hypercars as well. Koenigsegg, the Ascari. Oh my God.
Crossfire? No? Okay. The Carrera GT, though, like that is like one of the last Porsches that will like actively murder you and has... that's one that I've heard multiple people say, like, it is hard to drive and it is not forgiving, but it is a rocket ship.
Yeah, so this is the only time I've ever heard Jeremy Clarkson like a Porsche
Call a Porsche, yeah.
Oh my God, he was like, oh, this looks so good. Yeah, so here's a list of cars. I'm going to run through them real quick. These are the ones I was able to write down. The Porsche Carrera GT, the new Dodge Viper, the Bugatti Veyron, the SLR McLaren Mercedes, the Koenigsegg, the Ascari with the BMW engine, the... Crossfire, RX-8, Porsche Cayenne, VW Phaeton, and then the Vauxhall Signum, I think was the word on that one.
Oh, I don't remember that one. I know, I didn't write it down, but I
tailed off at the end. That one shouldn't really count. But just the Veyron, the Veyron is just a celebrity in its own thing that really drives it home. And they talk about it in the next episode as well, the cars that they're going to actually test this year, and it's essentially this list.
Yeah,
which you can't help it. The Veyron, the SLR McLaren, the Koenigsegg, those are amazing.
Those, I mean, they are, but like I said, bellwethers of these super and hypercars. So
I mean, they are. This is like, I don't know if there is a hypercar before these three cars.
Yeah, no, they really introduce a new generation of crazy cars. So this is like an awesome next season on Top Gear. We're gonna get some awesome ass cars.
I'm gonna make you laugh again. The Pagani Zonda is a hypercar.
Okay.
So that one has already come through the list.
Okay, so I will give you that one. Yeah, that's kind of in that, and it is interesting that got out before a few of those other ones. But
Yeah, it's true. Maybe it seems like it wasn't because they made the same car in like slightly different names for like 20 years.
True, yeah. And I did like, there's a couple on there that were kind of like notorious. Not necessarily flops, but just like sort of flops. The RX-8, which was not a bad car, but like especially compared to the RX-7, it was a letdown. And then the Phaeton, which is like, hey, you want a $50,000 VW? Well, nobody else does either. So.
It's interesting. We'll link to it in the show notes. The Phaeton is the best car that Regular Car Reviews has ever driven.
Interesting. I'll find that.
He loves it.
I would own one. That is one of the few VWs that I'm like, this is weird enough, especially in a W12 configuration. I would own that.
Yeah, I don't even think he drove the W12. I think he drove the 8.
All right. Was that a V8 or a W8? Because I know they put the W8 in the Passat for a bit.
I'm not sure.
Okay, we'll have to look it up.
We'll have to see. Well, check out Regular Car Reviews on YouTube. A lot of fun.
Yes, sir. Mr. Regular's a funny guy. All right, so we do get kind of a bonus hot lap here with the TVR T350C. Now I know you're not a fan of the TVRs, are you?
They just look so stupid.
They're that car just screams Swordfish to me. That movie, that's the first time I saw one, and I was like, "What the hell is that?" And I've always kind of had an odd affinity for them. It was like it's not something you ever see over here. They were kind of their own unique thing because they're little and they're all swoopy and they got some weird spider eyes. But I never hated them. I
can draw a direct line between why I don't like the TVRs and why I do not like the Porsche 928.
Okay.
They're just bulbous. They're just bulbous.
They are bulbous. I'll give you that.
It's a hulking, bulging car. Just don't like it. I don't like the way that looks at all. That being said, I really should like TVRs. They're super powerful and they're super fast. I think apparently they drive really well.
They see this one. It's interesting because it seems like they're one of the kind of quote unquote supercars that you can set up to your own liking, which I like.
Like from the factory.
Yeah, that was one of and really like suspension wise, that was one of their points of this one is you could take seconds off by tweaking the suspension a little bit, and you can also completely change the ride characteristics and make them undrivable around town.
That's right, because the Stig set the car up the way he wanted, and it wasn't as simple. They were like changing out coils and shocks and stuff.
They looked like they were. I don't think they were.
You don't think they were? I think
there was a little. I think they were like maybe beefing up sway bars, but probably leaving. I would assume. I guess maybe they swapped in new coilovers or whatever, but yeah.
The Stig set up the car the way he wanted to go fast because he is Stig, and Richard did not like that very much.
Yeah.
Richard wanted it to be a little more. I guess Richard at the beginning of the review called it the car that people take on the track, thrash around the track on Saturday, but drive it to work on Monday.
Yep.
And so you need it to be able to do both. It has to be a Jekyll and Hyde.
Yeah, which is accurate. So they were able to get a 128 out of it.
That's fast.
Yeah, that is fast. It's a 350 horsepower car. It really matched the specs match the Esprit almost exactly, which is interesting in terms of at least horsepower and 0 to 60 time. But yeah, so they got a 128, and then they tweaked the suspension to make it actually like bearable on city streets, and lost the second to 129. But 128 is as good a number as any.
Yeah, and I guess we're getting this bonus lap. Jeff found a price. I think these came from the factory at around 39,000 pounds.
Yeah, 38.5 is what I got.
Again, considerably cheaper than the Lotus.
That's not much.
It's pretty good. If that's the actual price, that everything's leading me to wanting to like this car. Just wish it didn't look the way it did. That being said, it did a 128. It can do a 128 on a dry track.
Mm-hmm.
What would you put a score on? I always ask you first. I'm gonna do mine on this one.
Let's hear it.
I'm gonna say this is as desirable to me as the Esprit. I'm gonna say a 5.
Okay. I'm gonna give it a 6. I think
6.
It's not. Yeah, it's not. I mean, the front end of this, I agree. It's not. They have. I think it's a Cerbera that I like. But it's a weird body shape and all that. I don't hate it, but I don't love it.
I think I would have I'd like it a lot more if I was in the driver's seat and driving it and couldn't see
for sure. Don't have to look at it.
Didn't have to look at it. That's where I'd really enjoy this car to be.
Yes, sir.
Well, all those things put together, it did a, what is that? 128.
Yep. 88 seconds.
88 seconds. That puts it into 4th place.
Not bad.
Let me say I had the 92 in the score from the previous car, and that was in 92 seconds. That puts it in 10th place. So 4 seconds
bumps it
really bumps it up. So that's what we're going with here.
All right.
88 seconds. That puts it into 4th place. So right ahead of the Honda NSX Type R. Okay. And right behind the Noble M12 GTO. The Honda NSX Type R was considerably more expensive, but it did a similar timed lap.
Okay.
We both gave it really high desirability scores.
Because we want NSXs.
Yeah. So
as you do.
If it was a little cheaper or went a little faster, it would have been a little higher, but it's okay. Yeah.
All right.
Didn't do it. And then the Noble was cheap and fast.
Yeah, which is a good combo.
So yeah, this ended up with a 108.65 on our Top Gear power rankings.
Now, one more note on this. We did rename it at the end, according to Clarkson, Valhalla. But they had 3 more names on there that I just couldn't not write down for different iterations of cars in the past. There was the Mazda Bongo Friendly, the Isuzu Mysterious Utility Wizard.
There's no way that's right, is there?
I know, but I love it. I hope it's real.
So it was Isuzu?
Yeah, it was Isuzu. And yeah, the VW Fancy Boy.
Fancy Boy.
Are you're fact checking us here?
Oh, okay. So, all right. So it's called the Isuzu MU, which stands for is short for Mysterious Utility.
Okay, why mysterious?
I don't know.
What's the mystery?
But in Japan.
Okay, that makes sense right there.
So the 3-door MU was an 89, followed by a 1995 door version called the Isuzu MU Wizard. So it was literally the Mysterious Utility Wizard. But this is the Isuzu Rodeo.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I'm
gonna go buy one, and I'm gonna call it that now. Oh man, I'm looking up the other ones. The Mazda Bongo, I want so bad. The Mazda Bongo Friendly is like a VW Eurovan, like the camper van.
Yeah.
Oh, that's rad. Yeah, that's a little guy. It's apparently the Bongo is still available, but the Friendly was it was 95 to 2005, and the
Bongo Friendly.
I think it's Friendly. Oh, it is Friendly. Interesting. Okay,
it's even better.
Yeah, and then the Fancy Boy. Yeah. I'm not getting any good ones here, but it's a pink VW Golf.
The cabriolet version, right?
I believe so. I'm not getting a definitive article here. That one is not as obvious as the other ones, but that is really funny that the Bongo Friendly and the Mysterious Utility Wizard, 2 legitimate those exist.
It's just Mysterious Utility, but unless you get the 5-door, then it's the Wizard.
I'm going to buy one, and I'm going to buy those badges from Japan.
Oh my god, that's such a good day. We'll have pictures for all 3 of those in the
Yes, we will. Notes. All right.
I think, and probably on the Facebook page.
Yeah, let's get those up ASAP. Okay, so our last segment, revisiting one of the previous ones here, is our Fastest Faith Part 2. We got 4 new folks in the audience here.
The new Fastest Faith segment. Previously, you'll remember that the Church of England won with a ringer. Now, no longer will I call him a ringer. But the Church of England won, and the competitors in that one was Catholic priest, 2 members of the Church of England clergy,
a reverend and a bishop.
A reverend and a bishop. There was a rabbi, and there was a
Buddhist.
A Buddhist. And
there's a Krishna too. Do you get him?
Hare Krishna. I guess there was a bunch.
There was 6 total. Yeah, because we only got 4 this time.
Yep. This time there was a Muslim, which they commented last time. It was Ramadan during the last time, so they couldn't do it then.
I believe his name was Tarek Nassim, if I remember right. Yep. He drives a Skoda RS.
That's probably the fastest car of all these guys.
Yeah.
There was a Druid.
I didn't realize this was a religion.
Yeah, dude. It's like the old school, like Stonehenge sort of Druid.
Yeah.
There was a Seventh-day Adventist. And there was a Rastafarian. And
none of the other cars were impressive. The Druid drove a Morris Oxford. The Seventh-day Adventist was a Peugeot 1.9 diesel, and the Rastafarian was a Mondeo diesel. Now, Brady mentioned a ringer. The Rastafarian apparently had some rally experience.
He's done just a slight bit of motorsport. Just
factory rally.
Yeah, just a bit. But they threw them all around the track in the same Subaru WRX.
Yeah, that STI, that thing was the ProDrive STI. It's not a slow car.
And unfortunately, for the Seventh-day Adventist, he had the same issue I had.
Too big.
with the Lotus Esprit, and he was jammed in there like a sardine in a can, and the Stig shook his head. No, you're not allowed to drive today.
Yeah, he couldn't fit. He got a DNF.
No, you cannot drive today.
He got a DNS, typically.
Yeah, he got infinite score.
Yeah.
They did a little bit of, this was a Jason Daw special again. They did a little bit of, I guess, joking about the Druid casting spells on people. Because they said the Druid cast a spell on the Muslim, who then like spun the car, and so that the Muslim score was 141, which is not very good.
Well, still, spinning a car was not reflected in that time. That's not slow enough to have spun.
I guess that's a good point.
Because, I mean, looking back at the previous ones, we had the rabbi who spun was a 155, and the Krishna who spun was a 156. The bishop who broke the car was a 142. And he, like, bounced that thing through there. So 141 had to be a different lap. He must have had a clean lap.
He must have had a clean lap. The Druid did a 148, so way even slower.
Oh, yeah. He was
couldn't cast a spell to save himself.
Yeah.
Because he didn't spin or nothing. He just went slow.
Yeah. Now, the Rastafarian, man, Olive, as we said.
So, when you watched him set off, and he was shifting through the gears on that opening straight, you could tell that guy had driven before.
Yeah. Now
slamming him through the gears.
He was. We actually got a time because we didn't last time for the Church of England Reverend, but we did this time.
We did get a
He got a one. He was at a 137, so he had a
4.7.
Yeah, it was 4 seconds faster than the Muslim. This Rastafarian Olive, holy God, he did it in a 131.
131,
which is flying.
The Church of England priest should not feel very good about his time and should hang his head at his next motorsport event. Because he got whipped.
Spanked. That's faster than the Stig did in the Esprit. That is like, if we're talking cold lap, that's the same time than the Stig did in an Esprit.
There's no way those times are right.
That's so fast.
There's no way you spin and get a 141. There's
no, that's for sure not right.
There's no way you get a 131 out of that.
I don't know, man. I mean, I'm gonna trust that they did it. I think they did say that he almost beat the Stig, so this dude can wheel. That's like all there is to it. He can apparently really drive, assuming there's no malarkey going on.
What kind of malarkey you got going on, Rastafarian?
I mean, if maybe they're sandbagging the Germans and the Rastafarians paid them off.
And then and also the Church of England. I don't know. They're getting their priorities mixed up there.
I read the other day that Rastafarianism is the 4th biggest religion in the U.S. Now I assume they also just smush all Christianity together, but
yes, they do. Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, so it's bigger than we thought. But man, that dude I liked him. He was a cool guy, and he was fast.
So fast.
Stonking fast.
He really stonked it. You're right. Well, that, I guess, brings us to the end of the first series of the new Top Gear.
I think we get to call this a series of our show, too. So this is the series finale of Series 1 of Top Gear Rearview.
That is correct. We are going to move on to Series 2 starting next week. This episode is going to come out one day after Thanksgiving in the United States. So happy Thanksgiving from Jeff and I.
Yes, sir.
And please, if you enjoyed the episode and you're enjoying the series so far, hit that subscribe button anywhere you can on your podcatcher or on iTunes. It would be really awesome if you guys could leave us a review on iTunes, get the word out about the podcast, tell your friends. That'd really help us out.
And now one thing I wanted to add here too, if you're like us, you might have noticed Series 1 is kind of hard to find. This is kind of like the bastard stepchild of the new Top Gear. So it was tricky to find these episodes. Moving into Series 2, they're on Amazon Prime. So if you have Prime Video, they're, I think 2 through like 17 or 18 are all on there. So it's super easy to get these episodes. We encourage you to go take a watch and, watch and listen along, something like that, but way easier to get.
Yeah, Series 2 through the end are available on Amazon, but if you have Amazon Prime, 2 through 17 are free, which is even better.
Awesome.
You can watch all of the episodes of Top Gear except for Series 1, which we just went through on Amazon Prime, and I believe after 17, I think there's a few seasons available on Netflix right now.
Yeah, we basically switch over to Netflix after that. So,
but if you'd like the
freebies coming up.
if you would like to follow along and watch the episodes as they come out with our podcast, that'd be great. Amazon Prime is a great place to do that.
Indeed it is.
So I guess I hope you all had a happy Thanksgiving. If you're everywhere else in the world, I hope you all had a happy Thursday. Yeah. And we will talk to you next week.
Yeah, on that note, we will see you guys in Series 2.